Hey guys, Mikhail here for another device deal video. Today we're doing another video on security cameras, comparing the two main brands out in the market, Arlo versus Eufy, in the 4K market space. So Eufy has finally come out with a 4K camera that they haven't had for quite some time, which Arlo used to have an advantage of. Today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each of them and see which one is best for you. So let's start with some of the specifications of the camera. So as mentioned in the beginning, they are both 4K resolution. So picture quality are going to be pretty much the same with these. They both also have an integrated spotlight, which means you're going to get the option for color night vision as well as infrared night vision. So far, much of a muchness. One of the first things that we'll come to as far as a difference between the two brands is the field of view. So how wide the camera can see. With the Eufy, it's capped out at about, I think, 135 degrees wide, whereas with the Arlo Ultra here, it's 180 degrees wide. So kind of the first bit of advantage to Arlo in this sense is based on where you're putting in a camera, you're probably going to be able to see more with a single Arlo camera than you will with a Eufy. So onto one of the very important features with these cameras is the batteries. So which one is going to last longer? So based on the two models we've picked here today, which is the Arlo Ultra 2 versus Eufy Cam 3, the Eufy Cam 3 is definitely going to have the advantage as far as battery life goes. You can already see, I guess looking at the cameras physically, that the Eufy is a lot larger. So the Eufy can store up to about a year of battery life, whereas the Arlo Ultra is 6 months. Now, of course, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because obviously based on the amount of traffic the cameras get, this will vary quite dramatically. You know, as someone that has a camera that gets, 50 notifications a day versus someone else that only gets 10 notifications a day, you're going to see a very vast difference as far as the battery life goes. And then speaking on battery, one of the really cool features that Eufy has introduced into this camera is the fact it's got an integrated solar panel. So you can see on the top here, solar panel is already integrated in, don't need an extra feature. So not only is the battery bigger and can last up to 12 months even when without the solar panel, with that solar panel integrated, you should hopefully in a perfect world be able to not really ever need to take the cameras down, unless you're getting quite an excessive amount of usage. That's not to say that the Arlos do not have a solar panel feature. It is an extra accessory, roughly somewhere around the $80 to $120 mark, depending on the time of year. With this one, you would get a cable that's about, I think it's about 2.5 meters long. So that gives you a bit more flexibility as far as where you can position the actual solar panel. So while it's amazing that the Eufy has it built in already, we've had some people in the past mention that it can actually be an issue when it's being integrated like this, because if you're putting the camera, let's say under an eave or somewhere that's in the shade, it kind of makes the solar panel useless that's in the Eufy already. So you can also zoom in on these cameras, and which is really great when you've got a 4K camera because you can pick up things like number plates quite clearly. The Arlo has a 12 times zoom versus the Eufy with an 8 times zoom. So you can kind of get in a little bit further with the Arlo camera here. They're also both weatherproof at an IPX67 rating, so they can both go in, rain, hail, sunshine, whatever you need it to do. Both will be able to support weatherproofing needs, so that's equal on both ends of these cameras. Another similarity between these models is that they both have two-way audio, duplex audio, so not only can you speak to the person in front of these cameras, but they can also speak to you. Another feature that these cameras have is smart home automation or integration. So they both can support Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant. However, at the moment, the Arlo can support Apple HomeKit as well, while the Eufy at this stage can't. That's not to say that it's not ever going to be able to, but at this stage, only the Arlo supports Apple HomeKit. So I want to talk a little bit about the base stations that each of these cameras use. So first, the thing to start off with, bases are a requirement for both of these cameras in order to function. I know there's some models out there, especially on the Arlo side, which now a base is an optional feature, such as the Pro 4 or Pro 5. But for both of these that we're looking at today, a base station is a necessity to work. So when it comes to the base station and storage options, both bases support local storage. The Eufy Homebase 3 over here has 16 gigabyte of inbuilt storage with the option to expand the with the option to expand the storage up to 16 terabyte, which is massive. I think that is definitely something that gives the Eufy an edge in this particular space. Arlo also supports local storage, but it uses a micro SD card to support local storage, and Arlo haven't necessarily come out and specified what the maximum is, but based on its other base model, we're going to assume that it's either 1 or 2 terabyte. So the Arlo camera actually has a removable battery as well, so a bit of an advantage over the Eufy actually, because over time, over a few years, if the Arlo battery is starting to deteriorate and it's not holding charge anymore, you can actually just take the cover off and change it internally quite easily. Unfortunately though, with the Eufy, once that camera is dead, that is it. There's no way to change the internal battery. Once it's gone, it's gone. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the software side of features with these cameras. A lot of them do overlap, but there are some that for the Arlo you actually need a subscription for, whereas with the Eufy it's included in the product. So for example, activity zones. With activity zones, which is to be able to isolate a particular area in the field of view and only be notified when there is movement in that area. So for example, if you had, let's say, a backdoor camera, you only wanted to be notified when there's movement at a fence rather than maybe the dog running around. That's what that feature could be used for. So with the Arlo, if you want to be able to have the camera running off the battery and having that feature, you need to go on the subscription. Otherwise, you can actually connect it to a cable so you've got continuous power, and then it's a free option. But I guess, it's an extra step required. Whereas with Eufy, that's already included. Another feature that's already included with Eufy but falls under the subscription for Arlo is the advanced AI detection, or I guess human or pet detection. So with the Eufy, if someone comes in front of the camera, it'll be able to tell you whether it is a person or a package or an animal. Arlo has the means to do that, but again, the smart subscription is required for that one. So on to another section of storage. We want to talk about, I guess, local versus cloud storage and if it's needed. So a really handy feature with Eufy is that they don't really need to push a cloud-based system onto you guys, because they've already got, not only do they have inbuilt storage, but they have a means of that you can access your locally stored footage. So in the base, you can actually access that remotely. Whereas with Arlo, if you want to be able to access past video clips remotely, they would really heavily push you towards their cloud subscription. You can save footage locally, as mentioned earlier. It uses a micro SD card, but unless you activate a feature called direct storage access, which involves either a VPN router or port forwarding, you're not going to actually be able to view those clips on your phone unless you got home, unless you're on the same Wi-Fi network as the Arlo. So it gets a little bit, I guess, less accessible to view those videos when you're doing local storage on Arlo. So while this does definitely make Eufy look like the better option when it comes to storing your videos and viewing them, it is important to note that there are benefits to having cloud storage. Now, I know some people have some issues, or they think there's some security risks with the cloud. On Arlo's side of things, Arlo is a very well-trusted, reliable brand that's from the States, from the United States, and they're very, very transparent with their information and their data. So they're very, very reliable, and there is a lot of benefits to having cloud, such as the means of not being able to corrupt the data. So, for example, I've had customers ask me in the past, if you are running only off local storage, if someone were to find your base and tamper with it, you do not have any evidence of that storage, of that recording, it's gone. Whereas if you've got cloud, then if someone comes in, regardless of what they do to your house, what they do to the cameras, you're still gonna have that storage saved so that you can show the police later on. So when it comes to mounting options, the Eufy is actually kind of limited. It comes with a screw mount in the box, but that's essentially it. What it comes is what you get. There's not really any variation of that I've seen out there. Whereas Arlo, you've got a multitude of different types of mounts you can use. So in the box with the Ultra kits, depending on how many cameras you get, you will get a combination of magnetic and screw mounts. So the magnetic mount is fantastic if you want to have a lot more versatility with the angles of or positioning of your angles, because you can put on the top or the bottom, a lot more flexibility. And then you've also got the screw mount option as well, which would just be similar to the Eufy. Arlo also has a anti-theft mount, so it's kind of like a different housing that the camera actually sits in, and it requires a tool in order to take the camera out of the mounting. So you've got some additional security barriers there to protect the Arlo camera from theft, whereas Eufy did not have those particular mounting options that I'm aware of. So both will have an option to connect it to your router using an Ethernet cable, which will be included in the box. So they've got Ethernet ports on the back here. Another cool feature that the Eufy has in the Smart Hub, or the home base, sorry, is that it's got an alarm in the base, which I think is about 100 decibels loud. With the Arlo, all these newer models, there's no more siren in the base. However, there is a siren in the cameras, which the Eufy doesn't have. So it's kind of like a pick your poison. Did you want to have an alarm in the camera at the point of contact, or more coming from the base? I guess that's going to be up to you. So there you have a summary of these cameras, and you may be asking yourself, all right, so which one is for me? So I guess my first thing to say is that you definitely will not be disappointed either way. Both cameras are fantastic in their own way. I personally believe that if you're someone that's willing to go on a subscription and you're willing to pay the small fee that it costs to use the Arlo cameras for their full capabilities, I think the Arlo may have the edge. But if you are someone that's very adamant that you just don't want to pay any additional fees and you want to just pay for the system once and be done with it, I do believe you get more kind of value for money or bang for your buck with the Eufy without a need for going on to an additional subscription. All right guys, so there you have it. I really hope you enjoyed. If you wanted to ask us any questions about these cameras or have any other queries, feel free to reach us on our website, email or phone number. We've even got a live chat feature as well. Make sure to like and subscribe guys, and we will see you in the next one.